Hello, everyone. My name is Wendy Musakim from Indonesia. First, thank you for taking the time to hear my presentation. On this occasion, I will talk about my Begonia-related activities, filling the gaps, fieldwork, and building an illustrated database of Begonia in Indonesia. I prepared this presentation with my colleague, prominent Begonia expert, Wisnu Ardi from National Research and Innovation Agency. On this occasion, I will present information including state-of-the-art begonia diversity in Indonesia, results from recent fieldwork trips, our effort to build an illustrated list of all Indonesian begonia, and some challenges as well as opportunities ahead to study this species-rich genus in a mega-diverse archipelagic country. This is an overview of Indonesian begonia in region. Sumatra and Sulawesi have the highest number of species, with 84 and 70 species respectively. Many species are endemic to each region, as shown by the number after the source. And Sulawesi has the highest endemicity with 65 of 70 species, followed by Indonesia and New Guinea with 37 out of 40 species. The lowest number of species can be found in Java, the most densely populated island, where most of the higher elevations are located in the slope of volcanoes, a type of habitat with low begonia diversity. And this is a map of Indonesia and the main location of my recent expeditions. As we can see, I haven't visited Nusa Tenggara and the Maluku Archipelago for the begonia exploration. Most of these expeditions vary from collecting begonia photographs and mostly a scientific expedition where scientific material like herbarium specimen were collected. One of the extreme area is Mount Jaya in the Indonesian New Guinea, number 7, where I explored the begonia species on the slope of Carson Pyramid, the highest point in insular Southeast Asia. Now we start with the first expedition in northern Sumatra. Since 2022, more fieldwork trips to explore begonia have been carried out, with the main target being the area called Gayo Plateau, an undulating mountain inhabited by the Gayonese people. The northern part of this area is underexplored, with the last botanical exploration to collect plants done more than 50 years ago. Most of the expedition will carry out at elevation above 1,000 meters above sea level, and the right photographs show Lake Slot Tower, an icon for Gayo Plateau tourism, with the active volcano Mount Burnitulong behind it. In this serial expedition, we found new geographic range of Sumatra begonia like Begonia leucerensis and Begonia comeriensis, two species formerly known only from the Mount Laser area around 70 kilometers south. The blue triangles represent the new geographic record for the Begonia leucerensis and the yellow star for the Begonia comeriensis. Besides that, we also found new species candidate currently being reviewed for publication. It's a member of species-rich section Dacia, a section with the highest number of species in Sumatra. Next, in the central part of Sumatra, I visited Mount Tujuh area, especially the area around Lake Gunung Tujuh. And Lake Gunung Tujuh is the highest volcanic lake in Southeast Asia. I found 7 species in this area, which many of which are still identified. Next, we move to the third location in West Java. Since early 2010, I have conducted expedition mainly in Mount Halimun Salak and Gede Pangrango. This area and surroundings are the last frontiers of rainforest for Java, one of the most densely populated islands in the world. Through this expedition, I successfully documented All species that occur in Mount Halimun Salak, Mount. 7 out of 9 species were successfully found during the expedition. So have been presented as an article in the Begonia in 2024. These are the 7 species found during West Java exploration. And from this, only Begonia repanda, which is now considered as endemic to Java. The other species have quite wide geographic range, like Begonia isoptera, Begonia multangula, and Begonia genuifolia. In the middle of 2024, I joined an expedition to collect begonia and other mountain plants at the highest summit of Indonesian Borneo. The peak is named Mount Bukutraya, a granitic type-like mountain rising to 2,278 meters of sea level. Focusing the exploration on vegetation growing on sandstone, we found 2 species of begonia from an elevation of 1,200 meters to the summit. One of the 2 recorded species is a strong candidate for a new species, and the species was found growing on granitic derived rock substrate. The manuscript of the is nearly at the final stage of the review for publication in an international pediatric journal. The second species is Begonia propinqua, which is quite a common species along the trail close to 2,000 meters above sea level. This area, derived from granitic rocks, is relatively poor in species. The fifth expedition was carried out in Sulawesi. And Sulawesi is home to many endemic begonias and is one of the most routinely explored area in the country. Besides the works carried out by Wisnu Ardi, where I joined in the 90 and 19 trip, I conducted 2 more expeditions in Mamasa and Poso Regency. The 2 expeditions focused mostly on the highlands, and from this expedition, I found at least 6 new species candidates. Our observation in the field suggests that there are still many unexplored areas that potentially harbor more new species. These are the photograph of the new species candidate from Mamasa and 2 from Poso area. Unfortunately, one of them is incomplete because so far we have only been able to collect the female plants. Therefore, we want to go to the field again to collect male plants and then describe them as new species. Also, the mamasan plants are under threat from habitat conversion. Moving on, the next place is Indonesia New Guinea. This area has a vast amount of rich tropical rainforest and has a complex topography which produces diverse sets of habitat. It is not always easy to visit the Indonesian New Guinea to conduct botanical exploration. Access, safety, and cost probably are the 3 most important factors. My fieldwork to the island was supported by many parties, including military force for some trips in the Afak Mountains and Manjaya area, and with the region government for the Jayapura expedition. The results of the expedition are mostly left unfinished, as we found it is very difficult to identify the specimen due to a lack of complete literature and specimen records. One of the most shocking for me on New Guinea begonia is the species that's from the section of Begonia. They have undivided tepals resembling a tube and are quite unusual for the genus. For example, I took the Begonia alpacensis displaying the united tepals, who was a new species during the 2016 trip. It is only after I discussed with Vishnu Adi that such feature is a distinguishing character for section Begonia. Once, all species with that feature were here placed in a separated genus named Begonia. To explore New Guinean forest is like a valley or hill that has its own begonia. That's what I think. Most species are recorded before to the section Petermania, the most species rich section on the island where identification is quite difficult. It's very difficult. One of the findings is a strong candidate of new species collected from Cyclop Mountains, a separate mountain complex on the northern coast of the island close to Jayapura. However, we lack the male organs for a complete description of new species. Therefore, further exploration is needed to collect to complete the scientific materials. With the situation always a different species after reaching another valley or hill, we found that estimating a species number that will be found during the trips is very hard. And now we move to the ongoing expedition. It's kicking start early this year. I'm now leading an expedition to the northeastern part of Sumatra. This expedition is supported by the American Begonia Society to explore the lowland forests growing on limestone at the foot of Barisan Mountain in Langkat Regency and the mountain Karstiks limestone at the west of the highly active volcano Mount Sinabung in Karo Regency. I team up with Rio Ardi and Yusran Ritunga, two local botanists who have preliminary data on begonia species in this area. These are all preliminary findings for the Langkat expedition, a candidate of new species and a geographic extension for distribution of Begonia inversa, a limestone species previously only known from West Sumatra province. And the manuscript on possible new species we found in this area is being reviewed in a scientific journal, Phytotaxa, with the publication expected to finish in the middle of 2025. The upper left pictures show a bat cave, literally named bat cave due to the presence of at least three species of bat in this cave. It is a tourism resort close to a rubber plantation and is habitat for Begonia inversa. This cave is located in Bukit Lawang, Langkat Regency, North Sumatra Province. Move on to the next thing. This is the less adventurous part or even boring because we will deal with a long text listing of begonia in Indonesia. Since 2021, we compiled a bibliographic list of Indonesian plants where begonia is one of the largest plant families. This effort is part of the Digital Flora of Indonesia project. We aim to list all species known to occur in the country and make the information available to the public. We are also thinking of an online identification key, but it is far beyond the current capability of our team. We collaborated with Image, led by Peter Pelzer from University of Canterbury, where we create a documentation of plant species together, including the Indonesian begonia. Through the Digital Flora of Indonesia project, we want to present an illustrated list, meaning that all species have living photographs for reference in identification. Until now, we have at least 50 species, around 20% out of 252 species. We collect all photographs from any sources created by Vishnu Ardi and other colleagues for correct identification, and the link are put in all species name. We also use the infographic like this one in the presentation to create public awareness using social media to grow our audience as part of our effort to introduce the Indonesian species of begonia to the public. The current knowledge of Indonesian begonia briefly discussed above implies some important points. The first thing is that we need more exploration, especially in undersampled areas. A recent assignment of Sumatra as a global plant dark spot also points out the importance of further exploration, including species genus begonia. In Indonesia, there are also some species that are complex and taxonomy is unresolved. For example, the begonia areolata, lians, and begonia robusta complex. Without a proper taxonomic studies, an accurate conservation or management of the species is impossible to achieve. In some areas, for example, northern Sumatra and New Guinea, a begonia thrush based in lowlands, zone that is highly threatened by human activities from land conversion, from forest to other uses. Therefore, the two areas can be considered as the main target for any future exploration. The extinction risk of Indonesia begonia have not been adequately assessed so far. Only 65 species have been formally assessed, and the IUCN red list conservation status is being finalized. Many Indonesian begonia are narrow endemics and grow in threatened habitats, which make them in a possible high risk of extinction. Therefore, a comprehensive assessment should be carried out as soon as possible. Plus, we also need to check and compare all available photographs of our Indonesia begonia since it is important as a bridge from science to the public. Our results of the expeditions have passed to the younger generation, so the precious knowledge won't disappear. This is done by the involving the undergraduate students to participate in the fieldwork from exploring the species diversity and also other research I'm at the conservation effort. This time, you can see an undergraduate student working on the northern Sumatra endemic Begonia olivacea population in Mount Pandan. Not really a mountain, but an isolated and highly threatened limestone hill in the eastern part of Aceh provinces. The research is aimed to study the population and ecology of the species. With the help of the IUCN Red List Species Survival Commission, and the final result of the project are aimed at giving conservation status of this highly scattered species. The mining activities and Mount Pandan are a serious threat to around one third of our known population of the species. And based on the preliminary result, the species seems suitable for placement in a threatened category, maybe even endangered. However, it is not only the important thing we want to pursue. With the involvement of the young student, we want to involve as many people as possible in the study of diversity and conservation of begonia in the country. So this is the last part of my presentation. The pictures show tree foresters from Kalimantan who took photograph of possible new species from Mount Bukit Raya with the highest point of Indonesian Borneo in the 20 and 24 expedition. I think this is what we need in the future, making everyone familiar and proud with the begonia they have in the country. I thank to all parties that support my expedition to many areas in Indonesia, where the results are a crucial part of the advancement of knowledge of begonia in the country. Thank you very much for your attention. Terima kasih.